I came to a realization at the end of the game against Alabama, yeah, after the dust settled and stuff. I think this team actually probably convinced us all that they could make a championship title run, and I don't know that they actually, as a roster, were built enough to make a title run. Does that make sense? Like, I think they played above what their parts were so well during those long winning streaks they had, that they actually made us think that, man, this team really could, you know, get the right draw and could cut down the nets. Sherelle, am I making that up? Do you feel the same way, or do you think that this team probably did leave a little bit out there?
No, I mean once you get to the Sweet 16, you're 2 games from the Final Four and 4 games from a championship. So uh, obviously they could have won a national championship. I think they were that good, and they played at stretches where, especially offensively and defensively, they had stretches in the apart from each other where they were championship level. I think the issue was I don't know how many games where you saw the championship defense and the championship offense
At the
coexist at the
same
same
time,
time.
I don't know that we
And
saw it at all, except for maybe
I,
that Florida State game.
yeah, maybe. And that was even then. I mean, people forget they were down 13 in that game at home
Yeah,
against Florida State. Um, so
no, I mean
I
the
think
Florida State tournament game.
oh, the tournament game. Gotcha. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's probably one. Tennessee, the offense was amazing in the first half, but Tennessee put up like 50 some points in the second
in
half.
the
So
second.
I
Yeah,
don't consider that championship defense. But I think maybe that is one of those things. The championship offense, the championship defense, just never quite merging and being together in the same game. But
Sean, what
yeah,
say
they
you? Do
they
you feel
definitely
like
could have won it. Definitely could have.
Sean? Do you think this team actually could have won it, or do you think they were punching above their weight class most of the year?
I think for this team, in my mind, going through a lot of it, had that '06 team where what they did overachieve and they did lose early. But when you do look at it, I think they did overachieve. It was extremely fun. I watched. I don't think I was just reading the preseason magazine the other day, Athlon maybe or yesterday, and they had them ranked 21st, which I think, hey, that felt about right given what happened last year in the season. When you look at Armando, RJ, and then who they had around them, I think it is a team that could have could have competed. Would have loved to have seen them play UConn again, and whatever happens, happens. UConn is playing at a different level, but would have loved to have seen that. But it, this wasn't the one seed that we've seen in the past, like a '05 and '09, right, et cetera, where it's just at just playing at this superb level. And it was even in the ACC. We always talked about it. I don't care about what the next 5 games look like. Just they got to go one game at a time because even though they did have a miraculous record, only three losses, there were a lot of close wins that they pulled out. They did lose to Georgia Tech, Clemson at home. So each game in my mind was always just take it one game at a time. And a lot of the NCAA is about matchups. We talked about it. Roy's last game was Wisconsin, bad matchup. 2 years ago, Marquette, Baylor. Those were good matchups for UNC, and Alabama was just wasn't a bad matchup. I think they were the best in that 4 to 5 seed range. Would have loved to have played Gonzaga or somebody else, and then I think once again, if it had been Arizona or Clemson, they would have taken care of them. But you always needed things to work out and for them to be peaking on both sides of the ball consistently. And unfortunately, they just had a few too many just small miscues, both offensively and defensively. And I think in my mind, it's almost I wish it had been an Auburn situation where they just got
Yeah,
blown out, and then you're not just replaying all these specific plays or what ifs in your head
yeah.
because I think they did outplay Alabama for the majority of that game, and they just let it slip through, which I think is the most painful thing where you can't see them play a UConn and see what really could happen.
Sean, I asked this after the ACC tournament. Give the season a grade.
I would give it an A. I mean, I know that's hard to say after they lose in the Sweet 16, but eh, maybe A minus. But I mean, once again, look at the ACC regular season in terms of how they won that, got a 1 seed. Do I wish they got to the Final Four? Certainly. And am I disappointed thinking they should have beat Alabama? But I think also looking at compared to last year and how they did rebound, the joy that this team brought to everybody throughout the year, and how fun it was to watch really two all-time greats in terms of RJ Davis and Armando as seniors. I would give it an A- despite the final end result.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are like, we should have made the Final Four. We should have done this. We should have done that. Right? Yeah, maybe, but also other teams are allowed to play as well. And I think it's also worth remembering there's only one team at the end of the year, unless you count number 69, that ends their
And
season without a loss. Like that ends their
what
season with a win.
one quick thing before Sherrell gives his grade, you go back and I forget the exact quote from Mick Cronin after they lost to UNC in the championship game, and um, it was pretty much about Caleb Love, how he exploded, and hey, sometimes these things happen, and probably in their minds, everything had broke right for them, right? They didn't have to play Baylor. They had St. Peter's up next, and they're looking at getting back to the Final Four, but they just had UNC take over the game at the very end. And to me, it's almost like that Grant Nelson, where there were so many posts on the message boards about Grant Nelson last year before he entered the portal and when he was in the portal, and he probably didn't perform up to what a lot of people expected. And here he is, just catching fire, hitting crazy shots, and now they're just going to him like it's an NBA game in one-on-one situations, and that's how UNC loses. So it's super frustrating, but that unfortunately is the tournament where every minute matters.
Sherrell, give me a grade.
Am I like analyst Sherrell or my person Sherrell? Which Sherrell am I to give you this grade?
Both.
Whichever one. No, I'm not going to make it hard on the guy. Like it's it's been a rough weekend. Let the man pick whichever hat he chooses to wear. Go ahead, Sherrell.
Yeah, I would say like a 92. A 92 is an A, right? 92 is an A minus.
Yeah, we're in college. 90 and up is an A.
So I would say like, and this is emotional, unhinged, like 89.9, just because
just because you don't want to give him an A. You are the jerk. You were the jerk TA I had in Math 31 in college.
Just because of the one game and what that allowed to happen. Like that is hard to get over when you talk about the totality of what the season meant. And if you could have just won that one game in the ACC tournament, you prevent something else from happening, and you give Carolina something they've only done 3 other times in the last 24 years, which is win an ACC tournament championship. So, like, they brought Carolina back to what it was supposed to be, is an appealing brand of basketball again. They were a number 1 seed. They won the ACC regular season championship. It is a really, really good year, but just that one loss, and like I said, what it allowed and created and what it kept UNC from getting, it's hard for me to give them an A just because of that. And I know that sounds emotional, and I know that sounds not logical and not thinking things through.
Bro.
But I do think that is I do think that this season is going to be looked at a little bit through that lens, because there just haven't been enough championships for Carolina, whether it's NCAA, ACC, whatever. They've won 3 ACC championships in 24 years. 24 years.
Well, it's going to be harder too now. There's 47 teams in the conference.
Exactly. That's hard. That's hard to accept, considering what UNC typically has done over the last 60 years for me. So great season. As high of a B as you can get, like 89.99999.